Storytelling and folklore has been integral to the human experience for as long as we've existed. In the days before scientific understanding and technology, we used folklore to help us understand the world around us. Storytelling and performance kept us entertained and connected us to each other. In the modern era, storytelling and folklore have morphed into different mediums like film and books. But we still sit around campfires and try to one-up each other with the scariest story possible. We still seek out scary stories and try to pass them on to others, adding our own twist. So what happens when storytelling and folklore meets the internet age? Look no further than creepypasta. Creepypasta.com says, the name creepypasta originally comes from the word copypasta, an internet slang term for a block of text that gets copied and pasted over and over again from website to website. So creepypasta references a scary version of these, almost like a chain email that gets passed around. Creepypastas are campfire stories for the digital age. I've briefly talked about creepypasta on my channel before while reviewing novelizations, or I even brought it up in my folklore video from a while back, but I really wanted to talk about it more. Creepypasta is very important and nostalgic to me as a child of the internet. I was born in 2002, so I was the perfect young impressionable age around the creepypasta boom of 2010. My friend and I were obsessed with it in like 5th grade. We would go to school and tell each other about all the scary things we had read the night before. And I just have so many memories, and I'm still interested in it today. I'm still reading novelizations. Every once in a while, I still revisit the classic creepypasta YouTube channels. And so I thought, what better time to talk about it than Halloween? So welcome to the Reading with Miles Halloween special. Today we are going to be talking about creepypasta. I'm going to be giving you a brief history of creepypasta and internet horror, and then we're also going to talk about my personal favorites and answer the question, is there any good creepypasta? So if any of that sounds interesting to you, stick around and let's get right into it. A little disclaimer for my timeline: it might not be perfect due to the copy-paste nature of things, especially in the beginning. It's hard to find the specific dates that things were posted or who to credit them to. So if you're interested in any of that, or if you think I got something wrong, please let me know. Feel free to do your own research. I did my best. But yeah, let's just get into it. We're going to talk about the 3 major eras of creepypasta, in my opinion, and their defining events and stories. So before my real timeline begins, actually, we are going to talk about what is considered the first creepypasta by many. I know that there are other ones like Polybius that have been spoken about in the past, but this is what I would like to talk about. Ted the Caver was written in 2001. It was serialized on the website Angelfire, and this is what is considered the first creepypasta by many. It follows a man, Ted, who is a caver, surprisingly, and his scary adventures caving with his friend. They come across some really creepy stuff in the cave, and it comes with photographic evidence of some of it. It's very clear that the man who wrote this has a lot of caving experience and was probably the one in the photos that he posted, which really lent itself to the credibility and believability of its story. And I think that's why this story got so popular, is partly because of the photos and partly because a lot of people thought it was real. And this, in my opinion, and we can talk some more about it later, is one of my favorite creepypastas ever, because it keeps up believability there and it doesn't go too far, which we'll see kind of happens with creepypastas later on, is that they just feel the need to go crazy and provide a super shocking end. And Ted the Caver has a perfect ending. It doesn't go too far. It is just like the perfect creeping, scary story. And I can just not recommend it enough. I would totally recommend listening to a reading of it. We'll come across this later as well, but In my opinion, readings are one of the best way to experience creepypastas. So that was the first creepypasta, but in my opinion, creepypasta didn't really start to take off until around 2008. Things were really popular on 4chan, on the X board, which was used to talk about paranormal encounters usually, but expanded as time went on. And you can see the early hallmarks of the genre here, where there is a huge effort to suspend disbelief, where people are trying to make it sound like it's real, and maybe some of the stories on here were real, but that's what's important, is that you can't tell. And famous stories that we'll talk about later, like Anansi's Goatman, came from the X board on 4chan. Creepypasta.com was started in 2008, and in their About Me section, they say, Creepypasta.com is a collection of various paranormal/scary short stories. I didn't write any of these. Many of them were anonymously published on the 4chan image boards. Eventually, the site began accepting direct submissions. This website has been huge in the creepypasta community ever since, and we will talk a little more about it later. The only creepypasta that I would like to bring up from my real beginning era is Smile Dog, or smile.jpg. I'll put a little photo of him up here. You know him, you've seen him before. It originated in 2007, and it really shows the chainmail roots of the creepypasta genre, where you were supposed to spread this around. Smile Dog, spread the word, always came with it. And if you spread it to somebody else, they would be cursed with it, but if you didn't, you would die. Smile Dog gained popularity much later as well. It started in 2007 and probably hit its peak around that like 2010 era as well, but that's where it originated, so wanted to talk about it here. So this is going to be the bulk of the video, is the golden age of creepypasta, and that is from 2009 to 2013. Creepypasta Wiki and r/nosleep were both started in 2010. Creepypasta Wiki made it easier to attribute stories to one person and way easier to like track creepypastas instead of it all just being posted on 4chan. r/nosleep is an in-character subreddit. You might have heard of it before. You're not allowed to talk about things as a story. So let's talk about some important creepypastas from this era in no particular order, but we should probably start with the one that everybody knows, and that is Slender Man. He originated in 2009 on a Photoshop contest on a website called Something Awful. If you don't know who Slender Man is, where have you been? He is an entity that kind of has had a lot of community lore created around him. It's all been built up by a bunch of different people, so nothing is explicitly canon. Sometimes he has tentacles coming out of his back, sometimes he doesn't. I don't know. I'll put up the images from the Something Awful forums that started everything, but basically his whole thing is that he kidnaps children. You don't really know what he does with his victims, and that's not really the important thing. He also kidnaps adults from time to time, but the important thing is what he does to victims before he takes them. It psychologically torments his victims, stalking them, standing outside their windows, being in their homes, messing with their electronics. He often brings around some electronic interference with him. Like if you try to take a video of him, your camera will cut out, your lights will cut out, things like that. He is kind of like an eldritch being a little bit. So that's Slender Man. There's been a lot of media based off of him. Also in 2009, Marble Hornets, the series Marble Hornets was created. Literally the first episode of Marble Hornets was posted 10 days after the original forum entry on Something Awful, which I thought was really interesting. I have never watched Marble Hornets, surprisingly, even though I was really into creepypasta when Marble Hornets was big. I was adjacent to the fandom, kind of, but I wanted to read a summary for you because it feels important. Horror Film Wiki summarizes the series. The series follows Jay Merrick, a young man who attempts to find out what happened during the filming of Marble Hornets. an unfinished student film helmed by Jay's friend Alex. 3 years before, Alex abruptly ended the project after only 2 months of production. Before cutting contact with Jay, Alex gave him the tapes containing raw footage from the film and told Jay never to talk about it with him again. The main antagonist of this story is referred to as the Operator, who is essentially Slender Man. So Marble Hornets still has a huge fan base to this day. It came out with a movie in 2015, huge part of Slender Man and creepypasta lore in general, but unfortunately I don't know that much about it. Do y'all think it's worth a watch? Let me know down below. I have wanted to watch it before, but it is just such like a massive undertaking to get into, so I just don't know. In 2012, Slender, the 8 Pages was released, which is probably what gave the biggest boost of popularity to Slender Man. If you were on the internet around that time, you probably remember watching PewDiePie and Markiplier play Slender and screaming at the game so loud that it woke your parents up. I watched those all the time when I was a kid. I also played the game a lot. I was very bad at it. And fun little Miles fact, I remember that I also one time built a science fair project based off of Slender, the 8 Pages. It was something about like measuring heart rates or something, but it was basically an excuse to play the game and to make my friends play the game. Next up, we have the Russian Sleep Experiment from 2009. If you haven't read this one, it is not very good, but I think it warrants a read if you are interested in creepypasta. I feel like it epitomizes the creepypasta genre. I remember reading this in middle school with my friends and talking about it after and being like, do you think that like actually happened? Like I did kind of think this was real when I was in middle school. It follows kind of exactly what you'd think from the title, a sleep experiment carried out in 1940s Russia, where these researchers give their subjects this experimental anti-sleep gas, and they shut them up in a room for the foreseeable future and see how long they can keep them awake. But things start going bad very, very, very soon. And this is where the story kind of starts to lose me. It just gets a little goofy. The patients start totally freaking out. They get super violent. They start like tearing off their own skin and tearing out their organs and brutalizing the other patients that are all locked in this room. And when the scientists finally come in and check on them, they're like, oh shit, we should not have done this. But all of the patients are like, no, please don't take it away. We love not sleeping. Like, they're having a good time. The climax of the story is what scared me the most as a kid, but now is definitely the goofiest part. So let me read it for you. When asked by one of the researchers, "What are you?" the subject responds, "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." And then he shoots him and he dies. And that scared me so much when I was a kid. It's just a lot. It's a little on the nose. Good idea. This will be a recurring theme in creepypasta, is that good ideas, but the ending goes a little too far. It feels like the author is just like really excited and wants to create the scariest thing possible, so they just go a little too hard. Next up, we have Squidward's Suicide, a classic from 2010. I never loved this one that much, but lost episode creepypastas were huge, and I feel like I just needed to touch on that genre. It follows a lost episode of SpongeBob where Squidward kills himself. This is another example of creepypastas coming with images. It's pretty iconic. I'll put it right here. Pretty creepy. This trend of taking things for kids and making them scary and evil was very big in creepypasta. You can see that with multiple SpongeBob creepypastas. You can see that with Sonic.exe, Mario 666 or something, or like Mario.exe. Can't remember. But just this need to take children's content and pervert it and make it into something spooky was huge. I specifically remember one story that was like a Max and Ruby lost episode. Lost episodes were huge. Unfortunately, they never really interested me that much, so we're not going to talk about them too much today. But I will also talk about something that is kind of a fictional lost episode kind of deal, and one of my favorite creepypastas, and that is Candle Cove. Candle Cove was written in 2009 and has now been published physically, and the author of it has written a lot of other stories and I think even books. This is one that I'm not going to spoil the ending of because I actually do think it is worth a read if you haven't read it already. It follows a group of people from around the same like rural area talking in a forum post about a creepy show that they used to watch in the 70s on their like local network TV. And as they get further and further into talking about the show, they realize how scary and weird and wrong it actually was, and it just kind of goes from there. I'm not going to spoil it because I think this one is pretty solid. It definitely loses me a tiny bit at times. It's a little silly, but all creepypasta is a little silly, so you kind of just have to like suspend your disbelief. Another genre that I wasn't super into was gaming creepypasta, but I do need to mention a few. Lavender Town Syndrome was a big one. I know a lot of people, including myself, that were really freaked out by this when it was big. I remember watching a video in middle school and with my friends saying that like if you listen to this song from the original Lavender Town, it's gonna drive you crazy and you'll kill yourself, and it was supposed to have frequencies in it that only kids could hear and that would drive kids to kill themselves, and it was a whole thing. That became like an urban legend, I feel like, almost. It like almost left the internet and became like a bigger thing because I hear people still talking about that. But another gaming creepypasta that is a classic of the genre is Been Drowned, which started in 2010 but actually is, I think, still updating today, if not still updating very recently. The gameplay footage from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask really helped it get popular. It follows a man who buys a haunted copy of Majora's Mask haunted by a kid named Ben. And the gameplay footage, I remember seeing that all the time when I was younger, and unfortunately I never really enjoyed the gaming creepypastas that much, but since this one is so big, I feel like maybe I should go back and revisit it. It's kind of the same thing with Marble Hornets at this point though, where it's like, it's just such a big thing that I don't know how I am going to do that. But let me know if you think I should check it out. Next up, we have another heavy hitter. I would say the other most popular creepypasta of all time, second only to Slender Man, and that is Jeff the Killer. And the story behind Jeff the Killer and this infamous picture is really interesting. In 2008, you can see the first sighting of a Jeff the Killer story published by a YouTube account called xoxo, and they published just a super short version of the story. And then in 2011, somebody else wrote it and posted on Creepypasta Wiki, kind of building off of the short story that xoxo made. And this is the Jeff the Killer story we all know and love. And if you don't know it, I will give you a short summary. So Jeff moves to a new town and it immediately goes pretty wrong. He moves with his brother and his mom and dad, and things immediately go wrong on the first day when he is harassed by these comically evil bullies. This story is definitely worth a read. I think if you haven't checked it out, it is infamously bad. And I feel like the bullies just illustrate that perfectly. Like, they just carry knives on them. They are just so evil for no reason. But Jeff, because he's so slay, beats the shit out of them so hard that the police come to his house, and his brother says it was all him, and so he gets arrested and just like held in jail for a hot second. Even though Jeff's brother is in jail, his mom insists that he comes with her to this neighborhood kids party because they're new in town and she wants everybody to like them. So he reluctantly goes to the party, and then the bullies show up with guns to come after Jeff, and this huge fight breaks out between them, and eventually Jeff gets like a bottle of bleach gets knocked over, like they're fighting inside the house. Or is it wasn't vodka. It was bleach, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it is bleach. Gets knocked over on him, and he gets lit on fire, and this permanently disfigures him. So when they show him his new face in the hospital room, he goes a little crazy, and he's like, oh my god, I look so good, I look so beautiful, don't you guys think I look so great? And everybody's kind of just like looking around like, okay, cool. But later that night, his mom finds him in the bathroom carving a permanent smile into his face and burning off his eyelids so he can always see how beautiful and happy he looks. And his mom's immediate reaction, which is so fucking funny and kind of real, is to yell to her husband, honey, get the gun. And then Jeff kills her, kills the dad, and the story ends with him going into his brother, who is home from jail now, into his brother's bedroom and killing him shortly before saying, shh, go to sleep. And that's where the infamous story of Jeff the Killer comes from. The story has like a lot of interesting drama and lore around it though in the creepypasta community. It was taken down and put back up constantly on Creepypasta Wiki for a while because of its quality issues. A lot of people thought it didn't deserve to be on there. So eventually Creepypasta Wiki held a contest to rewrite it in 2015, and that is the edition that you'll see up there today. And in the current day, there is this huge search still ongoing to figure out where the original Jeff the Killer image came from. And it's really interesting. There are lots of videos out about it right now. I would totally recommend checking it out. There were theories that it was pictures of this girl who had like killed herself because of how people were like making fun of her and editing her photos. It's thought that the picture comes somewhere from Japan. I don't know. Nobody really knows yet. And there's even an $11,000 bounty out looking for the Jeff the Killer image, which is crazy. So if you would like to get in on that search, learn about it, I would totally recommend checking that out because that is a whole interesting side, kind of a lost media investigation that's part of creepypasta. Jeff the Killer spawned its whole own subgenre of traumatized teenage killers with weird powers. You can see that with like Tiki Toby, Clockwork, Jane the Killer. Because of this, a lot of, Jeff the Killer became really, really popular for some reason because it was really easy to make sexy fan art of him. And so it became huge that girls would make, like teenage girls would just make like self-insert creepypastas based off of Jeff the Killer. So because of this huge influx, anything with the format blank the killer was banned from the Creepypasta Wiki. And this feels like a pretty good time to talk about, if you have seen the Izzy's video, I haven't watched it since like last year because I didn't want it to mess with my video, but I think they called it the Tumblr sexy manification of creepypasta. If you don't know what a Tumblr sexy man is, it's just like an it boy of Tumblr. And you'll see that in, the only example I can think of right now is the Onceler. If you know, you know. Like, if you were around at that time on Tumblr, you know what I'm talking about. You know what genre. It's like any tall, skinny character that they can make sexy. that everybody just like latches onto for a while. And this happened in the creepypasta community hardcore. And I would say this kind of happened around 2010 to 2013 era. And this was definitely also the time that I was a teenage girl. I was well, maybe not even teenage. I was like, what? In 2010, I was 8. Okay, so I was probably into creepypasta when I was like 10 years old. So I wasn't a teenage girl yet, but I was still part of that sphere. And I definitely fell into it a little bit. But there was a huge side of the creepypasta fandom that just consisted of teenage girls idolizing these characters. And the most popular characters were Jeff the Killer, Ben Drowned. Surprisingly, Slender Man was in there. He wasn't always a love interest, but like he was still there. And then some of Slender Man's like proxies, who were, you know, people that were like victims of him that ended up working with him instead, like Hoodie and Masky and Eyeless Jack and Laughing Jack was also one of the like characters that everybody would make cute. Totally forgot to include him in this video. Fucked up little clown. That story is gross and fucked up. Anyways, in honor of that side of creepypasta, I remember when I was younger taking quizzes with my friends about who would be your creepypasta boyfriend. And I thought today I'm going to take one of those quizzes and share it with you, and we'll find out once and for all who is my creepypasta boyfriend. Let's go to Quotev. Let's do it. Which creepypasta would date you? 100% accuracy and realism. This is from 5 months ago. I cannot believe that this is still alive. That's crazy. Okay. Let's choose Fate to Begin. Classic. What type of music do I like? Nu metal, rock, hyperpop, or hip hop? I guess out of all of these, I would say rock. Favorite genre of movies or books? Horror, of course. Choose a cool picture. I'm gonna go with this. Choose a profile pic. This is crazy. Oh my god. I'm gonna choose the Patrick Bateman. What is a positive trait about you? I would say that I am empathetic and creative. Pick negative traits about yourself. Anxious, 100%. I don't know. I'm just like so perfect. I would say insecure. What's your humor like? This is a lot of different I don't know. Physical comedy. I would say sarcasm, probably. Your type personality wise, like my type in like a girl, definitely like outgoing. I'm just thinking about my girlfriend. Fun, outgoing, and supportive. My height or my boyfriend's height. I'm tall. And I guess I also like tall girls. Okay. Fate. Choose ass, tits, personality, or muscle. Choose a kitty. I like that one. Which creepypasta would date you? I did get a girl, which is pretty slay. Nina the Killer. Unfortunately for you, you'll never be Jeff. You will never even amount to him. But Nina is conflicted. This whole time she was chasing Jeff. She sacrificed so much to be his love. All she worked for would mean nothing if she'd tried to make you love her, so she must kill you. She can't love anyone other than the beloved Jeff, right? And then she kills you. Nina continued to stab and beat at your corpse. The life was gone from your eyes, but that didn't stop Nina. At least I got a girl. Honestly, that's pretty slay. When I used to take these quizzes, I would always get Jeff the Killer. I was always like, wow, creepypasta boyfriend. Anyways, that's my little aside. I don't even know who Nina the Killer is. I guess she's like obsessed with Jeff or something, but that just shows you the creepypasta girlies love Jeff the Killer. Now, from that little aside, we are in the modern age of creepypasta, and that is from 2014 to today in 2023. And unfortunately, this started off with something not very good, but I think it really marks where we're at in creepypasta right now, and you still see the effects of this today. In June of 2014, two 12-year-old girls tried to kill one of their friends to appease Slender Man and become his proxies. Obviously, that didn't work, and the two girls are now being rehabilitated, and the girl that they tried to kill is alive. She is fully recovered, and she is going to school to become a nurse, I think, which is really sweet. So this case has been sensationalized like crazy. This definitely was used to cause a moral panic around creepypasta, and this was the most popular time for creepypasta in terms of Google searches. Creepypasta and Slender Man hit its all-time peak in 2014, and a lot of people say this is the beginning of the end. However, I don't think creepypasta is dead. Surprise. Another thing to mention is the Channel Zero TV show, which premiered in 2016. I haven't watched it personally. I really want to. Eventually, I should. But it's an anthology series. I think it has 4 seasons, and each season is based off of a pretty famous creepypasta. There is a season based off Cove. There's another one based off of No End House. And I don't know what the other 2 seasons are. I've heard mixed reviews from creepypasta fans. Overall, it seems like a pretty fun show. I think it's on Shudder, and I've heard it's definitely worth a watch. The Slender Man movie, 2 words, Slender Man, weird, also premiered in 2018. Way too late to the game, obviously. Totally, the whole thing was like, if a Slender Man movie had been made like in 2012 or something, I could see it doing really well. Apparently this one totally sucked. I think it starred like Joey King. Apparently it's really bad. But that premiered in 2018, and I figured I should mention that as well for our modern era. A lot of people think that creepypasta is dead now, and it's definitely not what it used to be, but it is far from over. I think some things that could have led to the decline of creepypasta is obviously the Slender Man stabbing. Definitely left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths and made parents a lot more scared of it and not wanting their kids to interact with it. And then also, because of how popular creepypasta was for a long time, I think the oversaturation led to just so many stories. And I think that's why I kind of fell out of it after a while as well. It was just like, it felt hard to find a good story. And also the popularity of bad creepypastas really turned people off. And I think just the presence of kids in the creepypasta community, where, you know, you're reading these really disturbing stories, but kids are writing Jeff the Killer fan fiction, and that's also getting published on Creepypasta Wiki. So you're just looking for a good scary story, but then you're just like, all of these stories are like inescapable. So I think that turned a lot of older people away from creepypasta. But in my opinion, creepypasta is alive and well, and as folklore does, it has started to morph into something else. You can see that scary story channels, the classics like Mr. Creepypasta and Creeps McPasta and Corpse Husband, who has turned into something totally different. Those are all alive and well, and people love their content, and they're still getting millions of views, so they're not dying anytime soon. And creepypasta has morphed into something new, and in my opinion has kind of gone back to its community-oriented roots. If you know about the SCP Foundation, that stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. I'm not super crazy into this lore, but there is so much of it, and that started with I remember SCP-173 specifically. I'm pretty sure that's what that one is called, with like the creepy little guy, and if you look at him, he'll kill you. There's been games made off of it, and there's just a ton of lore. There's an SCP wiki if you're interested. There's icebergs explaining all of them, and it's just this universe where all of these really scary entities exist, and there's a government program called the SCP containment program or whatever, and they work to keep the public safe from these entities. And that is still huge and thriving, and new stuff is coming out every single day. The whole lore around the backrooms is huge right now too, and that is also a creepypasta, and it's also super community created. And last time I heard, A24 has hired like a 17-year-old to direct a Backrooms movie, which is really interesting, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. But if you don't know about the Backrooms, I'll put up the picture. It was posted on 4chan in 2009 with the caption, "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum humbuzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." And that spawned so much, and there's so much lore around the Backrooms now. People are obsessed with it. If you just search that on YouTube, you'll find so much. So creepypasta is alive and well. It's doing good, and it has also changed into other things. ARGs are still huge, and I think that has maybe come from creepypasta or like grown side by side with it. The whole trend of analog horror, like the Mandela Catalog, Local 58, and even Skinamarink, those are huge, and I think they totally have a relationship with creepypasta. While they might not be considered creepypasta, they have similar roots. They just emphasize the nostalgia. So if you are a creepypasta fan like me, don't be scared. It's not dead. It's not ending anytime soon. There are corners of the internet where creepypasta is still huge and always will be. It's thriving on YouTube. It's thriving on creepypasta.com, all of that stuff. So now that we are kind of to the end of our little timeline, let's answer the question, is there any good creepypasta? I'll tell you. There's a lot of bad creepypasta out there, but the fandom has generally agreed on certain stories as being good, and some have even gained so much notoriety that they've been published. And I've actually read 3 published creepypastas, so let's talk about them really quick. Let's start with Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach, which I have talked about on the channel before, and this is an iconic creepypasta. Pen Pal tells the story of a kid's life up to his teenage years as he is stalked by a man that he met doing a kindergarten Pen Pal project. And this one is really creepy. I would say Pen Pal is one of my favorite creepypastas. You can still find it online, narrated really easy. It probably just takes a few hours to get through. It's on the longer end, but you can buy it published. I just saw it at Barnes & Noble the other day. It is a genuinely unique and creepy story. It loses me a little bit at the end, but I would still totally recommend it. It is one of the better ones out there. Another one I would like to talk about, the other 2 novelizations I have read are Barasa and Barasa V. I don't know why it's called that because it's the sequel. So it's like, obviously V equals 5. I'm a little confused about that. Maybe it's like chapter 5. Maybe the original Barasa was broken into chapters. I don't know. But I have quite the relationship with Barasa. At the beginning of this year, I read the first one. I like listened to a long creepypasta reading of it. Then I listened to the podcast, which is produced and starring Cole Sprouse as the main character, which is just crazy. Cole Sprouse is crazy for being so invested in this story. It makes perfect sense to me though. And then after that, I like crawled my way through the second Barasa because it was not very good. And I am gonna kind of pull my laptop out here because, guys, like, I've been through a lot today, and talking about Barasa, it's just like such an ordeal. It was originally published in 2015 on r/nosleep and has, if you ask in like a creepypasta community, like, what's the best creepypasta you've ever read? What's the most impactful story you've ever read? People will say Barasa. And so I had heard it hyped for so long. I'm not trying to judge anybody, but guys, what the hell? It follows a kid named Sam who moves to a creepy new town. There are creatures living in the woods, and periodically the whole town just hears this like terrifying like scream noise, and that always happens like right before or after a girl goes missing. And it's very normal for girls to go missing in this area. Everybody's just like accepted it and is cool with it. His sister eventually goes missing soon after they move in, and then the story cuts to 5 years later, and Sam is in high school now, and him and his friends are trying to figure out what's happening to these missing girls and trying to figure out how they can stop it. It starts out pretty good, but it gets so crazy. I honestly want to do like a Mike's Mike style rundown of this entire story with like fucking, you know, red lines tying everything together. If this video does well, or if anyone says they're interested in this, because like I just can't stress to you how insane this story is, and just like the culture in the creepypasta community around it kills me, because like everybody just talks about it like it is the best thing that they have ever read, and it is so funny to me. But I don't know if anyone would watch that. Let me know. It would be a lot of work, but I like really want to share how ridiculous the story is with people. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert for the end of the story. We find, this is what I wrote. I'm just going to read it for you. We find out the big noise is this industrial people grinder that's killing the girls that have gone missing. There was an infertility problem in the town decades ago, so the natural decision was to abduct girls and traffic them to get children to the families of the town. This is something that every adult has agreed to do. They feel bad for it, but they think the pros outweigh the cons. This is only, so the sound is literally the sound that you hear the whole time. It's just crushing the bones of these girls, which like, I guess sounds kind of fucked up when I'm saying it, but like that being the reveal is just so fucking crazy. And because you're led to believe that it's something supernatural the whole time, and it's just so out of pocket, and like this would never happen. That like obviously trafficking happens and things like that happen. That's not what I'm saying. But just like this mysterious infertility problem and this whole town agreeing on like, yeah, you know what? This seems like a good solution. Let's steal our own children to make children. Evil. It's so fucked up, but like, it's crazy. That's only the end of part 1. In part 2, we follow Sam as he returns back to the town to try to shut down the operation. So I don't love that creepypasta, but let's talk about some of my favorites. If I have any recommendations for you, I would totally recommend Anansi's Goatman. I talked about this earlier. It is a scary, like, campfire story. It was originally published on 4chan, and it is definitely one of the most well-regarded creepypastas. I really like it. When I first read it, when I was, like, 10 years old, I used to, like, tell it as a campfire story to all of my cousins and, like, scare the shit out of them. I'm not gonna go too far into any of these because I think you should actually read these ones if you're interested. Also, Ted the Caver. I think I'm gonna reread Ted the Caver soon because I really like that story. It is really creepy. Candle Cove is pretty good. It's definitely not perfect. Same with Pen Pal. I also really enjoy that story, but it is not perfect. Probably my favorite creepypasta, partly because of nostalgia and partly because it also scares me, is the I'm a search and rescue officer huge Reddit thread that I think was posted in 2015. And that was like, that scared me so much when I first read it. I really loved that series. The original video from Corpse Husband, when he was still like a narration channel way back in the day, with just all of these like corny, like scary pictures coming up throughout it, is like so perfect. I re-listen to that one like almost every year just because I enjoy it. It's nostalgic and it's creepy. Like, definitely corny at points, but this is where that infamous like stairs in the woods stories come from. I'll just stop there. It really freaks me out. There's also a lot of like, you know, faceless people in the woods, stairs in the woods, kids going missing and then being found in places that they could have never walked to on their own. Really creepy stuff. I would totally recommend that. It's definitely has some cheesy scares, but I think it's worth your time if you're looking for that. So that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys have a wonderful Halloween, and I hope you enjoyed my little Halloween special. I know I could have gone on for so much longer, and I know I left a ton of creepypastas out, but I was really trying to get this finished by Halloween, and I have had such a busy schedule lately that this was all I was able to do, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite creepypasta is, if you have any recommendations for me, even if you think they're corny, even if they're bad. I love it all. It's still worth my time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. My Instagram, my letterboxd, and my Goodreads are in the description down below. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you liked this video and you'd like to see more of me, feel free to subscribe. And if you liked this video, like, please tell me, because I think it would be fun to make more creepypasta content in the future. But yeah, that is everything I have for y'all today, and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Thanks for watching. Bye.